How are we doing today, Gotcha Gang? Kawaii50 here with another FGO video, here to talk to you about my favorite female character in the game, Summer BB. We're going to look over her best command codes, craft essences, her stats, and her abilities, especially her unique ability, to figure out some of the best ways to use her. Be sure to like and subscribe if this video ends up helping you out, and if you really like that piece of art that we used in the thumbnail, check the description down below for the artist I've partnered with to make that happen. The man loves BB just as much as I do. I'm sure he'd appreciate your business. He does also have a lovely piece of Kiara art on sale. Just saying. As always, we'll start with BB's deck and stats. She's got a quick Arts Buster deck with an AoE Buster Noble Phantasm. Now, this deck is actually one of my preferred decks when it comes to general Buster Servant setup because it doesn't sacrifice that NP gain you would lose by having those 3 Buster cards. As far as those other stats go, her HP and attack are both on the higher side. 14,812 HP at max, along with 11,182 attack. Her NP per hit is okay. It is a 0.61%, but it ends up getting even better when combined with some of her very, very powerful skills. She's also got, not super great star absorption at a 52. That's not going to be like your general saber or anything like that. But, you know, there are ways to get around that very, very easily, and ways to turn BB into an absolute crit machine. Now, of course, since BB just basically hacks the game to make herself awesome, she has 4 pretty great class skills. Territory Creation Rank A is going to increase her arts card effectiveness by 10%, basically allowing her to get that extra awesome NP gain off of that. One Who Swallows the Land Rank EX gives her complete immunity to the burn status. Okay, that's fine. Entity of the Outer Realm Rank B gives her 2 critical stars per turn at base, and Core of the Goddess Rank A gives her damage plus 250, and also gives her a solid 25% debuff resistance. Pretty crazy when it comes to a plethora of skills. We're not even done yet with the actives. Now, when it comes to BB's skills, I'll give you a leveling order after I go over the last skill, because it all depends on how you want to use her. BB's first skill is Self-Modification, rank EX, which gives her plus 20 to 50% critical strength, and increases her Star Gather rate by 400 to 800% with a decent 5-turn cooldown. This skill has the potential to turn BB into an absolute crit monster. If you are able to generate enough stars to feed into BB, she's going to be dealing a excellent amount of crit damage, and she's gonna make a solid showing as your main attacker, be it in Buster Chains off of her Noble Phantasm, or in some of those nice Arts Chains, AQA, something like that, in order to regain that Noble Phantasm and use it again. Honestly, pretty amazing critical skill that a lot of servants wish they had. BB's second skill is easily her best just because of how much it does. Aria Pork Polkum rank A gives her 30 to 50% NP gauge, heals her for 1,000 to 3,000 HP, increases her Buster effectiveness by 10 to 20% for 3 turns, increases her NP strength by 30 to 50% for 3 turns, and also gives her a one-time evade that lasts for a total of 3 turns. Only downside of this skill, it is on a 7-turn cooldown, so you're kind of going to have to wait for it. Now, the evade is nice, but more often than not, you are going to be using this skill offensively, just because of the sheer amount of offensive potential it provides. So you're going to go ahead and level this first over absolutely anything else. This skill is just that important. You need that 50% NP charge, you need that 20% Buster effectiveness, you need that plus 50% NP strength. Those buffs are just too good to hold off. Now, BB's final skill is her most unique one, and the one we are going to be using when it comes to determining what allies to bring along with her. So just bring your standard buster boosters if you are using BB offensively. We're not going to really be covering those in the ally section. Faceless Moon, rank EX, locks the currently dealt set of command cards for 3 turns, and also grants 5 to 10 crit stars every turn for 3 turns, and this is on a 6-turn cooldown. This skill can be really game-changing in the right hands, people. It allows you to lock the absolute best chain you could possibly get. The star generation itself is just gravy, in all honesty. This skill would be absolutely incredible if it just did the locking command cards feature. And there's a lot of shenanigans you're going to be able to pull off with this in the right hands. Now, one thing you do need to keep in mind is if you lock those command cards and a party member is defeated or command shuffle / order change is used, you will not keep that effect. The command card deck will effectively reset. So you need to keep that in mind when you are planning the use of this skill. Now, if you were planning to use BB in more of a supportive role, focusing around this skill, I would level this second. Level her second skill first, her third skill second, and her first skill last, so 2-3-1 order. However, if you're planning to use BB as your main offensive fighter, level her 2-1-3 instead. All of this hinges around how you want to use this character. BB's Noble Phantasm is Cursed Cutting Crater, rank EX. This deals 300 to 500% damage to all enemies, and has a guaranteed effect to decrease your enemy's Noble Phantasm charge by 1. But on overcharge, this also has an additional chance to decrease your enemy's Noble Phantasm charge by an additional level. And this effect has a 10 to 50% chance depending on the level of overcharge. Now, there's not really much to say about this Noble Phantasm. Draining your enemy's NP gauge is just a great way to prolong the fight in your favor, and while the damage isn't going to be super great on it most of the time, when you are able to pop BB's second skill and gain those stacking effects of the NP damage and the Buster card effectiveness, it does deal a reasonable amount of damage, though you're not going to get something super great out of it solely because of BB's class. So keep that in mind. Don't expect a lot from it. Use it for that NP charge reduction, and honestly, that is how you are going to get the most use out of this Noble Phantasm. Now, I'm going to leave our allies towards the end because that's going to be a fairly lengthy section, and we are first going to focus on craft essences. If you're looking for a great general purpose craft essence for BB, you can never go wrong with Golden Sumo Boulder Tournament. A plus 15% attack booster plus a starting 50% NP gauge is great for any general attacker, and the same can be said for BB. If you don't know what else to put on her, don't have anything else to put on her, you can always rely on these to help you out. Now, if you're looking to build BB as a critical focused attacker, I've got 3 recommended craft essences for you in that regard. Victor of the Moon is always a phenomenal pick for a Buster Crit Servant, provides on max limit break plus 15% Buster effectiveness and plus 25% critical hit strength. If you stack that with her first skill, you're going to be getting a decent amount of damage out of that, even without class advantage. Now, I can also recommend Hero on the Beach for you, and I might actually recommend this over Victor of the Moon, specifically for BB. This grants 10% Buster card effectiveness, 10% critical strength, and 3 critical stars every turn when it has not been limit broken. If it does get limit broken, that goes up to 15% Buster card effectiveness, 15% crit strength, and 4 crit stars per turn. Now, BB does have that passive critical star gain already attached to her, so you can get yourself a solid 6 critical stars per turn. If you activate her maxed out Faceless Moon skill, this ends up going up to 16 critical stars per turn, just because BB exists on the field. if it wasn't for Faceless Moon granting stars and her passive 2 she gains every single turn, I'd recommend Victor of the Moon over this, but as it stands, I've got to put Hero on the Beach above that. As a free BCE, I can also recommend Treefus for you for similar reasons. Plus, 15% NP gain is going to really help BB out when it comes to using her Noble Phantasm to keep your enemy's Noble Phantasm charges down. It also grants you a 15% critical strength that is going to stack with her first skill, and it grants 4 critical stars per turn, just the same as the max limit broken hero on the beach. So if you're looking for a critical strength craft essence for BB, this is going to be your best budget option in my opinion. And if you're looking to run BB as more of a supportive servant, don't worry, I've got budget options for you there as well. His Rightful Place is my budget recommended option for that. It grants 4 critical stars per turn and also lets you start the battle with 50% starting NP gauge. Don't worry if you didn't get this yet, the Fate Zero Excel Order event is getting a rerun and you'll have an opportunity to grab it then. However, if you are a whale, I'm sure you've got one of these in your bank as well. Fragment of 2030, always good. I don't think I need to say much more on that. As for BB's command codes, I've got to recommend you either give her command codes that increase star absorption of particular cards or grant critical stars. So if you're looking to grant critical stars, Holy Knight's Aurora Borealis is a great pick, grants 4 stars when attacking using the engraved card. You stack that with all the other star generating bonuses you have on BB from craft essences, her passives, her 1 skill, and you're going to be getting a pretty great amount of stars per turn without having to rely on having a Skyhawk Scotty or a quick type servant in your team. On top of that, you can also give her the star absorption cards I previously mentioned if you're looking to increase her overall damage. Armament of Triumph from the summer event is a fantastic pick on her. You can also go with Code Focus for the more budget option as well. And here, gang, is where we get to the final beefy section, the allies. Now, I could mention every single ally that would be great with Summer BB, but it would make this video over an hour long, so I really cannot do that. What I can tell you at base is I'm going to give you 3 options, 3 5 stars, 3 4 stars, and 3 servants you can acquire as freebies. And your general criteria for a great servant to pair with BB is if you look at their skills and see an ability that grants an increase to card effectiveness for 3 turns, those are the servants you're going to want to pick, because being able to lock those cards and ensure you get that bonus for 3 overall turns is going to allow you to milk a lot more effectiveness out of that skill than you would have gotten had BB not been present in the meta before. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and start with our freebies. So the 3 freebies I have for you are Mandricardo, William Tell, and Summer Katsushika Hokusai. Why Mandricardo, you ask? His Brigliadoro's Bray rank A skill grants him a quick effectiveness and arts card effectiveness increase for 3 turns by 10 to 20%. With Mandricardo's quick and arts heavy deck, you are going to be able to effectively utilize those cards to generate far more stars as well as gain far more Noble Phantasm than you could previously. Also, on top of that, his Noble Phantasm has an overcharge bonus to increase the effectiveness of all of his cards. So with that applied, you're going to be able to, again, regain massive amounts of stars as well as massive amounts of NP gain than you normally would, especially if you're able to use his Noble Phantasm. When it comes to William Tell, being able to lock his arts card effectiveness along with his Noble Phantasm is going to be an absolutely phenomenal get for you. His Steadfast Endurance skill grants a 20 to 30% arts card effectiveness boost for 3 turns, and even if you're maybe only able to use his Noble Phantasm twice over the course of those 3 turns, that's still using his Noble Phantasm twice. That's pretty awesome. It's a very simple boost, but it's a very effective boost for this freebie archer. And finally, for our freebies, Hokusai is getting a lot from simply having BB on the field. Her third skill, pen name Silk Pattern Octopus, grants a 20 to 30% arts card effectiveness boost, and also increases her critical strength whenever she lands a critical hit by 10 to 20%. And you're able to effectively funnel all the passive stars BB is generating straight to Hokusai thanks to her second skill, Father-Daughter Bond. This increases her star absorption rate by 300 to 500%. So she's already got a better star absorption than BB at base. You're going to be able to make full use of this skill and have a solid 3 turns of absolute arts card critting mayhem with a freebie saber. What more could you ask for? For our 4-star characters, my shoutouts are going to Asagami Fujino, Ashwatthama, and Chin Liang Yu. Asagami Fujino's Mystic Eyes of Distortion skill, you should have leveled this to 10 if you've pulled her, because it is absolutely absurd. A 20 to 35% Buster card effectiveness boost, and also the ability to completely ignore defense. On top of that, you get an increase to NP gain that can be applied to, say, an arts card you chuck at the beginning of her chain, or maybe even her extra attack, even if you're doing a full Buster chain after using her Noble Phantasm. That's nuts. That's a lot of damage you're going to be able to pull out of Asagami Fujino. There's a reason she's considered one of the best single target archers in the game, and that is just going to be straight up exacerbated by pairing her with Summer BB. Now, she will face some really stiff competition from Ashwatthama when he finally arrives, because this man's just got crit strength boosts out the wazoo to both his Buster and his Quick cards. So depending on what cards you want to use from his deck, you can go ahead, lock what you need to use, pop that specific buff, and just completely go to town on your opponent, either getting some massive crit strength boosts on his Quick cards, or being able to inflict defense down with his Buster cards. And both these effects last for 3 to 5 turns, so this is absolutely nuts. On top of that, if you use his Noble Phantasm in a Buster chain to kick it off, you are going to deal damage and remove all of your enemy's defensive buffs. Removing those defensive buffs means those next couple turns are going to be just solid, straight up damage from Ashwatthama. And finally, I've got to mention Chin Liang Yu, simply for reasons related to card effectiveness as well as crit strength, all being tied into a single skill. White Shaft Spear increases arts and quick card effectiveness by 10 to 20%, and also grants her a 20 to 30% critical strength boost. So during those 3 turns, you have everything set up. Chin Liang Yu is going to be dealing a ton of really, really strong crit damage. If you also manage to get off her Noble Phantasm as well, she's going to be able to remove enemy buffs while attacking, decrease the enemy's crit strength, have a general attack boost for those 3 turns, and also being able to inflict defense down, stacking up to 30% on that opponent, making her even more dangerous. And finally, for our 5 stars, we are recommending Katsushika Hokusai again, the terribly underrated Ivan the Terrible, as well as Space Ishtar. Why Katsushika Hokusai, you might ask? Father-Daughter Bond, rank A, increases her arts card effectiveness by 20 to 30%. You combine that with her third skill, Pseudonym Isedako, rank B. This decreases the defense of your enemies whenever she attacks with arts cards for 3 turns by 10 to 20%. Being able to keep that defensive debuff on your opponent for all of those turns, while Hokusai is just pummeling them with her arts cards, is just going to make sure that she is able to absolutely melt any opponent she faces and not worry about that class advantage from her foreigner class. As far as Ivan the Terrible goes, his Buster card effectiveness is tied to his star generation skill, and it's a 20 to 40%. But on top of that, using his Noble Phantasm to kick off these turns where BB has locked his cards is going to also make it so your opponents have a Buster resistance decrease of 20% for 3 turns. So Ivan is going to be able to lock in his 2 Buster cards and just hammer away at his opponent. And finally, I've got to recommend Space Ishtar just because of the uniqueness of how her skills work and the fact that BB is going to be able to take full advantage of that uniqueness. Multiple star rank EX has an 80% chance to increase the effectiveness of one of her card types by 20% for 3 turns. So whichever card type she ends up getting increased, you can go ahead and lock those cards when they become available in the pool to make sure you can maximize the effect of that buff. On top of that, she can use her Noble Phantasm Strength boosting skill Venus Driver to change her Noble Phantasm card type to whatever she needs on top of that. So you're getting more out of that skill in spades. Honestly, really simple recommendation here for her, because her skills operate so much on RNG that any chance you have to cut down the RNG is going to be a big win. Overall, even without my own personal bias sneaking in, it is inarguable that Summer BB is a very unique character who can fill a wide variety of roles. Her only big weakness is her Moon Cancer class and the fact that she is not going to be able to use her class advantage very much at all. But with the boost she'll get to damage from her second skill's Buster card and NP damage boost, from her ability to become a crit machine to make up for that detriment, and the fact that she is able to provide a completely unique effect that helps the entire team regardless of situation, Summer BB comes in as one of the best summer servants ever released in the history of FGO. In fact, one of the best characters released in the history of FGO. She is not as game-breaking as characters like Merlin, Skahawk Scotty, or Caster Artoria Pendragon, but the unique benefits she provides makes it so she will more than earn a spot on a wide variety of your teams. Go ahead and let me know your thoughts on Summer BB down in the comment section below, and so we can sort of help everybody out. If you have a servant that has a 3-turn buff, who I was not able to mention in the allies section for the sake of brevity, go ahead, mention them down below and how you think they would work best for Summer BB. Being able to bounce these ideas off of each other in easily digestible paragraphs is just going to help everyone have more fun with the character, whether they have her or they just end up having to pull her off of a support list. This is Kawaii50, hoping you all have a phenomenal day, hoping you check out the Discord or the Patreon down in the links below, hoping you check out that brand new artist who gave us that beautiful art for the thumbnail, and I'll see you in the next video.